I used to believe the worst pain a man could feel was loss. But I was wrong. Pain isn't when someone leaves. It's when they stay, smile at you every morning, and kiss you goodnight, while secretly building a life with someone else behind your back. I'm Mechu Kalehan, 43 years old, architect, father of two, husband, though that last title feels like a cruel joke now. Funny how we build homes for a living, but miss the cracks in our own. I used to say my wife had a way of lighting up a room. Now I think she was just trying to hide the smell of smoke. It started small. They always say that, don't they? Tiny things you ignore because you want to believe love is enough. Late work nights that turn into weekends. Laughter on her phone that ended the second I walked in. A scent on her coat that didn't belong in our house. And still, I waited. I trusted. That was my first mistake. Her name is Claire. We met in college. Art student and engineer, chaos and structure. Opposites. But I thought that made us stronger. We built a life together from nothing, brick by brick. Bought an old colonial outside of Asheville. Raised our kids there. Painted the nursery ourselves. Took Christmas photos in the hallway. She would later pace nervously, hiding texts. I wasn't blind. I was hopeful. But hope doesn't save you. It delays the inevitable. The moment I knew was a Tuesday. Claire had just come home from a late client meeting. She smelled like bourbon and vanilla, neither of which she ever wore. She tossed her heels by the door and called up the stairs like nothing was wrong. Our son, Ethan, yelled back that dinner was ready. She smiled like a picture frame, perfect but hollow. I watched her walk to the kitchen, humming, and I swear, something inside me went silent, like my heart had stopped to listen, and it didn't like what it heard. That night, after the kids went to bed, I asked her if she was happy. She blinked like I'd asked her to solve a math problem. Then she gave me the softest lie I've ever heard. Of course I am, Matt. Why wouldn't I be? I almost believed her. Almost. Until her phone lit up on the nightstand. And I saw his name. Can't stop thinking about you today. That one sentence cracked the entire facade of our marriage. Suddenly, everything made sense. The makeup before her gym nights, the locked phone, the guilt in her silence. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I studied the betrayal like I was studying a building that was about to collapse. Blueprints of lies, beams of deceit, all hidden behind white picket fences and family portraits. Over the next few weeks, I gathered more than just screenshots. I followed the patterns, the Friday meetings that didn't exist, the hotel near the river, the same damn perfume. I even saw them once. By accident. They were a little cafe near my office, tucked into a corner booth. She was laughing in a way she hadn't laughed with me in years. He reached out and tucked her hair behind her ear. It was the most intimate violence I'd ever witnessed. I didn't go in. I didn't scream. I just walked to my car and sat there for 20 minutes, staring at the wheel, gripping it like it was the only thing tethering me to reality. She came home that night and kissed me like nothing had changed. And I kissed her back, because that was when I decided I wouldn't confront her. Not yet, because I wasn't just going to lose her. I was going to make sure she felt what I had felt, slowly, painfully, like 1,000 quiet betrayals. This wouldn't be a fight. It would be a dismantling of our lies, of her illusion, of the story she told herself about who the villain really was. I started watching her, not with suspicion, but with precision. Every smile she gave, every time her phone buzzed and she tilted the screen away, every excuse to step outside and get some air. I logged it in my mind like an architect surveying a site doomed to collapse. Claire had built a second life within the bones of our home, and I had to live inside it, pretending not to hear the echoes. But something about betrayal, it sharpens you. I didn't cry. Not once. I began documenting everything. Times, dates, screenshots. I hired a discreet investigator, an old friend from college who owed me a favor. Are you sure? He asked. Give me proof, I said. Not for court, for clarity. And he did. Within 2 weeks, I had photos, a name, a full report. His name was Daniel Holt, a client, married, 2 daughters, church-going, reputation so clean it squeaked. Perfect. I knew Claire wouldn't confess unless cornered, so I didn't corner her. Instead, I invited her to dinner. A real one. Linen tablecloth. Soft jazz. Her favorite bottle of wine, La Montagne, the one we used to open on our anniversary. She wore that navy blue dress I loved, the one that hugged her in ways that used to leave me breathless. And for a moment, God help me, I wanted to believe none of it was real, that she was still mine, that the woman across from me wasn't a ghost in borrowed skin. But then she smiled, and I saw it, the mask, the smooth, rehearsed charm of a woman in love with someone else. We toasted to the kids doing well. We laughed about an old college story. We didn't talk about love, or us, or Daniel Holt. And when the check came, she reached for her phone to text him. I knew it. Her eyes flicked to the screen with that soft, private smile. I didn't say a word. She would hang herself with her own silence. The next morning, I took the kids out, just me and them. I told Claire to rest. We'll be back after lunch, I said. But I didn't come home until sunset. When I walked through the door, Claire was pale, shaking, 1,000 thoughts swirling in her guilty mind. Where were you? She asked. I gave her nothing, just a smile. That night, I left a small envelope on her vanity. Sealed, heavy. Inside was a single photo. Her, Daniel, holding hands, kissing in the parking lot of a Marriott. No note, no threats, no signature. The next morning, she didn't say a word, just avoided my gaze and left early. No bouvier, no coffee, no kiss on the cheek like she used to. That's when the silence began. She stopped playing the radio while cooking, stopped asking me how my day was, stopped saying goodnight. Guilt is funny. It eats people alive slowly. Not all at once. Not like heartbreak. I wasn't punishing her. I was giving her space to remember what she destroyed. Weeks passed like molasses. One night, after the kids were asleep, she finally spoke. I think we should talk. I nodded. And just like that, the cracks widened. I made a mistake, she whispered. No, I said softly. You made a choice. Tears welled in her eyes. The first real emotion she'd shown in months. I didn't mean to hurt you. I looked her straight in the eyes. You didn't hurt me, Claire. You ended us. She opened her mouth, then shut it, because there was nothing left to say. For the next month, we coexisted like statues, carved from old memories and silence. I focused on the kids, on work, on regaining a sense of me. And then the call came, from his wife. Her voice was calm, too calm. She thanked me for the photos I accidentally sent. She said Claire had been seeing Daniel for over a year. She said Daniel was now begging her not to divorce him. I don't blame you, she said, but I'm not staying in a house built on lies. And I finally exhaled, not because I wanted revenge, because someone else said it out loud. This wasn't just infidelity. It was abandonment in installments. It was betrayal rehearsed so well, she almost convinced herself she was the victim. Now the mask is slipping. She doesn't hum when she cooks. She sleeps facing the wall. She knows the end is coming, and she has no control over how it unfolds. And me? I'm not rushing. I'm designing it, piece by piece, the same way I build homes. Because this time, I'm building the exit. There's something haunting about knowing the end is near, and still waking up beside the person who caused it. Claire and I were still sleeping in the same bed, but we might as well have been miles apart. She curled up on the far edge like I was contagious. I stopped turning off my alarm quietly. Let it ring. Let her hear it. Let her flinch. Because silence is no longer kindness. It's war. I started preparing, slowly, methodically. Not for a fight, for a clean exit. When you've spent years designing houses, you learn a thing or two about foundations. How they crack, how they settle, and how to collapse them without making too much noise. I pulled the deed from the safe. The house was in my name. Claire had never been interested in the paperwork. I reviewed every financial statement, every password she never thought I knew. I made copies, created backups. Claire thought I was distracted, but I was designing freedom one spreadsheet at a time. Then came the kids. I hadn't told them anything. Not yet. But kids feel tension like cold air under a door. They may not understand the words, but they sense the truth. Ethan, our 11-year-old, started drawing pictures of the family, but Claire was missing in most of them. Lena, our 8-year-old, kept asking if Mom was sick. She looks sad, she said. She smells like someone else's perfume, she once added, without a trace of malice. That one almost broke me. I kissed her forehead and lied. She's just tired, sweetheart. Grown-ups get that way sometimes. Claire started trying again. Making dinner. Asking how my day was. Wearing dresses I hadn't seen in years. Spraying perfume I used to say I loved. One night, she even reached for my hand across the couch. I let her touch me, but I didn't return it. I stared at the TV like it was more real than us. Because it was. She broke a week later. "I'm sorry," she whispered into the silence of our bedroom. I didn't answer. "You don't even look at me anymore, Matt. Because I don't recognize you." She sobbed. That should have hurt me. But I felt nothing. She had rehearsed her betrayal behind my back. Now she had to live with the weight of its performance. A few days later, I invited Daniel's wife, Marissa, to meet for coffee. It was discreet, civil, necessary. She was sharper than I expected, calm, elegant, and deadly clear-eyed. "He told me he loved her," she said, stirring her espresso. "Said it just happened." "Did it?" I asked. "Doesn't matter," she replied. "What matters is I didn't beg him to stay." That stuck with me, because Claire was starting to beg. Not with words, but with dinners. 4 smiles. Even sex, one night drunk and desperate. I stopped her gently. She cried herself to sleep beside me. I stared at the ceiling and planned my next move. I visited my lawyer the next morning. I wanted the divorce to be swift, quiet, devastating. "No alimony," I said. "She cheated." "You have proof," he confirmed. "I want the house. Full custody." He hesitated. "That might be harder. Judges usually prefer shared custody unless I have recordings. Her texts. The day she left the kids with strangers while sneaking off to hotels. I got timelines. I've got receipts." He nodded, suddenly understanding. "You've been building this a while." I smiled, cold and tired. "I'm an architect. I don't demolish until the exit's complete." When I served Claire the papers, I did it on a Sunday morning. She had just made pancakes. The kids were outside. I placed the envelope on the counter. Quietly, she stared at it, then at me. Her lips parted. Her breath caught. And all she said was, "You're really doing this?" I nodded once. "Matt, I messed up. But can't we at least talk about?" "You talked when you slept with him." She broke. Fully, finally. The woman who once built a second life behind my back was now begging me not to walk out of hers. But it was already done. She just didn't know how complete the blueprints were. The quiet after confrontation isn't peaceful. It's too quiet, like the stillness before a hurricane returns. Claire stopped trying, stopped cooking, stopped speaking. She floated around the house like a guest overstaying her welcome. The kids noticed. "Why is Mom so quiet?" Lena asked one morning, holding her cereal spoon like a microphone. Ethan answered before I could. She knows she did something wrong. I didn't correct him, because children have an eerie way of knowing the truth, even when we try to protect them from it. Claire moved into the guest room without me asking. She packed her things in silence. No tears, no shouting. Just the soft rustle of hangers, the scrape of drawers. It felt like a funeral no one had been invited to. I heard her crying one night, muffled sobs behind a closed door. And for a moment, just a breath, I wanted to go to her. Because I remembered the woman I fell in love with. The way she'd laugh so hard she'd snort. The way she'd hum when she chopped vegetables. The way she used to fall asleep mid-sentence with her hand in mine. But I stayed in bed. Because that woman didn't lie to me. That woman didn't kiss someone else in a parking lot while I ironed her favorite blouse. Daniel Holt tried to reach out. He emailed me. Subject, man to man. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my coffee. He wanted to meet. Said he respected me as a father and hoped we could move forward like adults. I replied with one sentence. "You already took something that wasn't yours. Don't make the mistake of coming near what is." He didn't reply. My lawyer called a few days later. "She hasn't contested anything yet," he said. "No fight for custody. No dispute over assets. It's like she's given up." I wanted to say something cruel. Something like, she gave up the moment she unzipped her dress for someone else. But instead, I just said, "Good. Let's move fast." I sat Ethan and Lena down that weekend. It was the hardest conversation I've ever had. Harder than burying my mother. Harder than watching Claire fall out of love. "We're going to live in 2 houses now," I said carefully. but you'll always have both your parents. Ethan's jaw tightened. Lena's eyes filled immediately. But why? She asked. I looked down at my hands, at the little scars on my knuckles from years of holding tools, fixing our home. Because sometimes people forget how to love the right way. Ethan didn't speak for a long time. Then finally, did Mom lie? I swallowed hard. Yes. And that was the moment my son stopped being a child. I saw it in his eyes, the way the light shifted. He wouldn't trust as easily again. The nights got colder. The air in the house changed. No more family dinners. No more laughter. Just a hollow rhythm. Work, homework, sleep. The walls whispered memories I didn't ask for. The echo of a woman laughing in the kitchen. The thud of her heels on the stairs. The creak of the bathroom door she always forgot to close. Now, silence. Then one night, Claire knocked on the bedroom door. I opened it, arms folded, already guarded. She looked older. Not in years. In weight. Like the gravity of her guilt had finally settled. I want to say something, she said, voice barely above a whisper. I nodded. She stepped in, barefoot, trembling. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know I ruined everything. But I need you to know, he didn't mean anything. I stayed silent. I was lonely, she continued. I felt invisible. I wasn't trying to replace you. I was trying to feel seen. She reached out, slowly, cautiously, her fingers hovering near mine. I didn't move. You were everything, she whispered, tears spilling now. And I threw it away. Her hand dropped. Do you hate me? I didn't answer, because the truth was worse than hate. I pitied her. After she left the room, I sat on the edge of the bed, eyes fixed on the floorboards we installed together 5 summers ago. Back when things were simple, when love was loud and unshakable. Now, it was a ghost in the hallway, a shadow in the guest room. In the morning, I found a letter on the kitchen counter. I'll move out by Friday, it said. Tell the kids I'll call them when they're ready. I don't expect anything else. Thank you for being kind, kinder than I deserved. There was no signature, just the imprint of tears on paper. The morning Claire left was colder than it should have been, not by weather, but by absence. I woke up to an unfamiliar silence. No sound of the kettle, no soft footsteps padding down the hallway, no perfume wafting under the door. The house was still. I didn't rush downstairs. I already knew. The guest room door was open, the closet empty, the bed made perfectly in that overly careful way people do when they're trying to apologize without words. On the kitchen counter sat the keys to her car in a thick white envelope. Inside, her wedding ring, and a note in handwriting I knew better than my own. Matt, I never wanted to be this version of me. You loved me when I didn't even know how to love myself. You were home, and I betrayed that. There's nothing I can say that will make it right, so I'm not going to try. I'll stay away until the divorce is final. I won't fight you on anything. I've already found a place. I'm not with him. I don't want to be with anyone. I only want to remember you the way you looked at me before I broke it all. Tell the kids I love them. When they're ready to talk, I'll be here. Always. See, I stood there for a long time. The ring lay on top of the letter, small and gold and heavy with history. I remember slipping it onto her finger on a rainy October afternoon. The way her hands trembled. The way she whispered, "It's always been you." Now it sat cold and lifeless, like a promise that died in its sleep. The kids took it harder than I expected. Ethan shut down completely, spoke only when necessary. Lena cried every night for a week. She refused to sleep in her own bed, curling up beside me in the silence of a home that now echoed with missing. I answered their questions with honesty, measured, gentle. I never spoke ill of Claire, even though part of me wanted to, because anger would have been easier than grief. But I didn't want my kids to inherit bitterness. I wanted them to understand loss without becoming it. I started clearing out her things a little at a time. The closet, the drawers, her books on the nightstand. I found a scarf she always wore in winter, blue and soft, smelling faintly of the vanilla lotion she used. I pressed it to my face, and for the first time in months, I cried. Not for the marriage, not for the betrayal, but for the memory of loving someone completely and watching them disappear inside their own loneliness. Time passed in pieces. Divorce proceedings moved swiftly. Clean. Uncontested. She gave up her share of the house. Took only what she needed. Never made a scene. Daniel disappeared like smoke. Last I heard, Marissa divorced him too. Good. Cowards don't deserve legacy. One night, a few months later, I came home to find Ethan sitting on the back porch, looking at the stars. She texted me, he said. I sat beside him. She asked if she could see me next week. Just for lunch. I nodded. That's your choice. He didn't speak for a while. Then, do you still love her? I took a deep breath. The kind that presses against every rib. I don't know what I feel anymore, I admitted. But I know I can never go back to what we had. Not after what she did. Ethan nodded slowly. I don't hate her, but I don't trust her either. That's okay, I said. That's honest. He looked up at me then, a little older in the eyes. Are we going to be okay? And for the first time in a long, long time, I didn't lie. We already are. 3 days later, the divorce was finalized. No ceremony. No last conversation. Just a court stamp and silence. Claire sent a final email. Thank you. For your grace. For protecting the kids from my worst parts. You didn't know me that, but you gave it anyway. Take care of yourself, Matt. I hope you find someone who never makes you doubt your worth. I didn't reply, not out of spite, but because there was nothing more to say. And so, I was free. But freedom doesn't feel like flight. It feels like space. Like breathing again after being underwater for years. Like looking around your home and finally recognizing it as yours again. It feels like walking past our old coffee mug and not hurting anymore. They don't tell you what comes after the betrayal, after the divorce, after the person who promised forever walks out of your life like it was a lease they couldn't afford to renew. They don't tell you what it feels like to sit in your living room in the house you once shared with silence as your only company. But I'll tell you this, the silence isn't empty. It's waiting. The first month after Claire left, I tried to keep busy. Painting the fence. Fixing the dripping faucet she always said we'd get around to. Little things, mundane, repetitive, grounding. But grief has a way of creeping in, even while your hands are full. Late at night, I'd lie in bed and trace the edge of the mattress she used to curl into. I'd open drawers and find pieces of her. A receipt, a bobby pin, a love note from years ago scribbled on the back of a grocery list. And for a while, those pieces still hurt. But then, I started noticing something else. Myself. I looked in the mirror and saw someone I hadn't seen in years. Not the husband, not the betrayed man, just me. I started running again. The air against my face, the pavement underfoot. It reminded me I was still alive. That pain hadn't swallowed me whole. I started sketching, drafting dream homes. Not for clients. For me. Places filled with light, with peace, with future. I even started therapy. I talked about the years I had pretended everything was fine. The weight of loyalty, the fear of being alone, the slow erosion of self. And somewhere between the second and third session, I stopped talking about Claire. Because I realized the story wasn't about her anymore. It was about who I was now. The kids changed too. Ethan became more focused. Quiet but steady. He checks in on me more than I do on him. It breaks me and heals me at the same time. Lena, she started painting. Said she wanted to make things that don't disappear. She taped her first picture on the fridge. A house. Ours. Just me, Ethan, and her. Smiling in front of it. And in the sky, where most kids would draw a sun, she painted a heart. She looked at me and said, "It's for the love that didn't go away." One night, months after everything, I ran into Claire again. Grocery store. She was alone. Hair tied back. No muck-up. She looked tired, but lighter. Our eyes met. There was no drama. No scene. Just a nod. A shared history acknowledged in silence. She didn't say a word, and neither did I. Some things are better left unsaid. Then something strange happened. I started laughing again. Not the polite chuckles. Real laughter. With the kids. With friends. At stupid things on TV. I caught myself one night, head back, laughing over burnt pancakes I tried to flip with a spatula that broke in half. And it hit me. I was happy. Not perfect. Not healed completely. But happy in a way that wasn't tied to anyone else. I had reclaimed my life. Not as revenge, but as resurrection. So if you're listening to this, if you've ever loved someone who shattered your trust and left you bleeding on the kitchen floor of your life, let me tell you, you don't stay broken. You build again. You become the architect of your own peace. You learn that walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. You discover that the most powerful kind of love is the one you learn to give yourself. I'm not who I was before Claire betrayed me. I'm something better, not because of what she did, but because of what I did after.